Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another hour of Healthy Conclusions, where we try to give our listeners important information on nutrition, exercise, and holistic, alternative, and integrative medicine. Please take a minute to visit our website at www.healthyconclusions.com and like us on Facebook. My name is Bob Neugebauer, and I will be your host for this evening's show. Tonight's show is being brought to you by Altrua Health Share, which has been serving its members and their families with their health care needs since 1997. Please take a moment to visit our website at altruahealthshare.org or call 888-244-3839 to see just what Altrua Health Share can offer for your family's health care needs, as it could mean substantial savings. Tonight we have a very special guest and also a good friend of mine and a friend of the people in the Treasure Valley, Mr. Kevin Miller of the Kevin Miller Conservative Talk Show on 580 KIDO. We've asked Mr. Miller to be on our show tonight to talk about his lifestyle change, which began a few months ago. Most of you are aware Kevin has had a weight problem for some time and decided to tackle this problem head-on with a lifestyle change using diet, exercise, and a lot of determination. So, Mr. Miller, welcome to my show for a change instead of you welcoming to your show all the time.
It's great to be on Healthy Conclusions, and I've always admired your determination, your grit when it comes to either nutrition or current events. So have at it, and thank you for having me, Bob.
It's a pleasure. You know, I happen to know that Kevin wasn't always overweight and, in fact, was a bodybuilder in his younger years. And also, in fact, I've seen the pictures. So, Kevin, what made you want to change your lifestyle and go back to where you were in your early 20s? And can you tell us a little bit about your bodybuilding days?
Well, Bob, we all have an image of ourselves. And for most of my life, my image, my outside appearance really was secondary to this inner drive to be the best in radio and television. And, television is such an unforgiving format that, I was, this close to being on a contributor, whether it was the Fox News Channel or Headline News. In fact, I haven't revealed this before, but Nancy Grace had approached me, and the management at Headline News had approached me about being a guest host. And the one thing that really got in the way of that was my physique. There are no fat people on television. You look at Candy Crowley, and she was our one we had, and a few others. But television is very unforgiving, and food has always been a drug for me. I always rewarded myself when I'd go out. In fact, in 06-07, when I was doing multiple hits on, my lifestyle would be I would get up at 3 in the morning, I would go to work, I would do the morning show, then I would go do live hits covering big cases, and then at night when I would get home at 6 or 7 o'clock, I would again go out and do live hits for the national network. And I always would reward myself with a bucket of fried chicken and wash it down with some sweet tea. And calorically, the sodium, the sugar wasn't good for me, but I didn't care. I wanted the food. Food was my drug, and I was all about the food. And food has been my drug for quite some time. And in Pittsburgh, I even made a joke of it. I called myself the round mound of sound. And hey, how do you cope with things? And if you have a weakness, sometimes it's better to out yourself that way. And I would joke about it. And I would, joke about my health and those sorts of things. And I've had some health scares, as you know, and we'll reveal here on Healthy Conclusions. But I kind of have whiffed it off. And I always thought that I was in control of my eating. And the older you get, the better you were. And the issue involving you can control your eating. My eating was controlling me. I would, go to Albertsons and get the 8-piece bucket of fried chicken and pizza. But I wasn't on drugs. I wasn't on anything else. Now, I couldn't walk much. And I would go to a rack, I would do all these crazy things, and I would just eat. In fact, the lifestyle of a morning person.
But you did have a bodybuilding time where you were in very, very good physical shape.
Sure.
Was it the radio that made you change this whole thing when you got that first job? What was it?
I competed in bodybuilding when I was 18 and 19. When I was in the Army, I would actually take time away from training to go hit the weights. And it was always that belief that you could get back to it because bodybuilders, and if you ever watch TV, bodybuilding, you're motivated by a very bland diet. Then you get to eat and you fill up, you lose a tremendous amount of weight, and then you come back, and this yo-yo effect can cause you problems. And I just always envisioned myself, even when I would go to gyms and they'd go, look at that tubby, as a bodybuilder. And it always would amaze me. I would look at trainers and go, yeah, what were you doing in 86 or 96? When in fact, I was living a very unhealthy lifestyle. And my drug of choice, my mistress, my entire life has been radio. And I guess the side bit, the washer, would be food. And I didn't really put a lot of grave importance on it, even when I walked from Haley to Boise in 7 days, weighing well over 310 pounds. When I went to Iraq and my ankles resembled cankles and resembled softballs. When my blood pressure was 235 over 135, and the folks in primary care thought that I would stroke out right in front of them, I didn't get the message. I just medicated.
Well, I'll tell you, you've had quite a change, and I can see you're starting to make a change back. I understand that you were pre-diabetic before you started your lifestyle change.
Sure.
And that you are now in the clear of being pre-diabetic. How'd that make you feel when you made that change and adjusting to a different way of eating and the exercise program? I mean, it's amazing shift you made.
Well, thank you, but I am clearly not out of the woods yet, and you've known me for years. I've always talked about doing a documentary on losing weight, and I would start the program, then stop. Well, what happened was that I would wake up in the middle of the night with pain, like spears shooting, just as they describe it, shooting through my ankles to my knees, and it would wake me from an hour to 2 hours. I couldn't go to sleep. And this would happen every night at 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. And I had to go to my annual checkup. And it was funny because my doctor's always goes, oh, I can't believe you're not pre-diabetic. Well, then they hit me with it. And I was, 3/10 away from being full diabetic. And the doctor said, hey, I'm going to give you this drug. It'll help you lose weight, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's when the old bodybuilding Kevin kicked in. And I said, give me 90 days. Give me 90 days to adjust the diet, to start exercising, to make a difference. Now, doing this at 49 as opposed to 19 is a world of difference. And some people make the mistake when they go to the gym. They try to do too much too soon. They get sore and they're away. I did something a little differently. Is I started off going to the gym, doing 3 sets of body part, just like a bodybuilder, 6 days a week, upping the water from a quart a day to 2 gallons to a gallon a day, slowly being happy with the baby steps. And the pain eventually went away as my workload increased because my body will only do what it can handle. I was listening to my body, and I went to back to the doctor 90 days later, and I was 1/10 of away from being non-diabetic at all, and the changes were made by watching the sugar, which is so deadly, watching the salt, and mentally, I don't know what they call it in your career, wiping the hard drive, mentally looking at myself going, if I eat that food, it's going to cause me pain.
You're wiping the hard drive, like Hillary said, with a rag?
Well, we'll see. We still have a very long way to go, but it was a mental thing, and it was because my drug is food and work, and it was saying, okay, even if I have to work later, I'm going to the gym. I'll be the fattest person in the gym. I don't care, and I have to get my work in. No competition but with anybody but myself. In fact, you and I have worked out together, and you've seen people kind of look at us, you the svelte Adonis, and me the plump blueberry.
I'm not so sure about that. How many pounds would you say that you shed since starting this lifestyle change, and what adjustments have you made to your daily diet?
I can tell you accurately, I went to Salt Lake City, and I got a scan called a DexaBody scan. And I tried to do a VO2 max as well, and I wanted a great barometer of a starting point. And that DexaBody stand gave me the starting point. If you want, I can tell you a little bit more later, or if we have some time. I'm looking on your cues if we have to take a break. You tell me.
I'm watching my friend Ray Amaya because
Okay.
he's my buddy.
Well, okay, so I'll go on. I started off, my heaviest ever was 341 pounds. I'm down to 310 as of last week.
Wow, that's a lot.
And
That's pretty good.
I started very slowly. Now, some people will go, well, I can lose 5 pounds in a week. I was at 338 for a while. I was at 315 for a while. And again, no chips. I went to lettuce, lots of salad, but I made sure my dressing didn't have a ton of sugar in it, which was a problem before. No croutons, tomatoes. I call it a super salad at night, where it's a ton of peppers, some cucumbers, some radishes. Really, the flavors pop, and you kind of get used to that, along with drinking a gallon of water a day and exercising 6 days a week.
Well, I mean, I know the water is very important, and, I'm down 55 pounds from when I started. It took me over a year and a half, but you seem to be doing quite well for 3 months. I know that exercise is a critical, important part of losing weight, and it's a hard time in your life now to be doing these changes. But how much time do you spend exercising each week, and what kind of exercises do you do?
Well, this is where the bodybuilding lifestyle has saved me. And people will see me at the gym, and they'll go, well, who's this tubby? But as you've seen, I sweat. And again, it's what you put into it. I do 50 minutes of cardio a day, and I do about an hour of weights a day, dividing my body parts into 3 sets. Chest and back, day 1. Shoulders and arms, day 2. Legs, day 3. I repeat the cycle, and Sunday is a day off. But keeping to a strict diet with the water, with the cardio, with everything else.
We're going to have to take a quick break here. We'll be back in a few minutes. You're listening to Health Conclusions, brought to you by Altrua Health Share, with your host Bob Neugebauer on 580 KIDO AM and 107.5 FM. Welcome back to Health Conclusions on 580 KIDO. We're speaking with Kevin Miller of the Kevin Miller Show, 580 KIDO. We are sponsored by Altrua Health Share. So, Kevin, we were talking about your exercise, and you seem to be doing quite a bit of that. I'm curious about your stress levels, as most people tell us after they start on a program like yours, their stress levels drop dramatically from what they were once before.
I would say it's like a drug. And my wife, Dorothy, my parents, you, hopefully the people at work have noticed it. It gives you something to focus on that is not so work-centric or so family-centric. It is something that you can control, and it's great to have little baby steps. Okay, today I'm going to do bicep curls, maybe with 10 pounds. Oh, I've got to go. And you really go from a focus of, oh, I have to go to the gym, to I have to go to the gym because of the results, because it gives you perspective. That's the beauty of what the journey that I'm on, is the perspective. Before, Bob, it was like, I just want to go, lose the weight, and then go back to being skinny, fat, and happy. But as you get older, you have to, and it's funny, at 49, it is a different world than it was even 4 or 5 years ago, as far as metabolism and everything else. I was talking to somebody, and I said, look, this type of work I put in 5 years ago, I'd be down 50 pounds.
Well, it's like that song, you're not a kid anymore.
So you say, and it's marvelous to see so many people in the gym. And even though we live in a world today where, like you, I don't know what type of tunes you're listening to, but everybody has their headset on, and there's not as much talk as there used to be, but there are still people that will encourage you regardless of what you look like. And that is so motivating in a world that is transactional, the world that we live in today, whether it's about business, whether it's about life, whether it's about politics. People like you for you, and they're happy for you. They're not competing with you.
Well, when I first went down to the gym, I can tell you that I was pretty pudgy. I was up around 225. So I can understand what you're going through, but even in a more difficult way. And you do need to get encouragement from some people. Most people have a sense of newfound energy when they do a lifestyle change such as what you're working on. Do you find that you have more energy since you have begun this change? Amazing.
Even though I've only lost 31 pounds, I don't need to nap as often as I do. There aren't the highs and the lows from the sugar highs and such. And as I start the process, yes, I'm amazed that at 5 o'clock at night I'm fairly fresh considering the long days. And, you have to be that way at our age. You have to put something in the tank. And it's counterintuitive because you think, oh, gosh, I'm going to do all this working out, and then I'm going to be tired. I think the thing that works for me is the cardio. Somehow that is a little bit more refreshing than the weights because it seems to give me more energy. And, you have more energy to read that book or to take a walk. Walks aren't as intimidating for me as they used to be. And that's something I think of when I'd go to a school because you don't want to be that, ooh, look at that guy. And I have been that, look at that guy, not in a positive way, in a negative way. And I'm still working on that.
Well, if you look at the research on what happens when you go and exercise, particularly when you do cardio, it does change your physiology internally. Your mitochondria actually react, and they become more active. You get more energy, and that builds over time. The more you do, it seems like the more energy you have. I know I have. I get up at 6 in the morning. I go to bed at 11 at night, and I feel absolutely wonderful. And I'm sure you're going to do the same thing.
Well, you do these crazy workouts where you're doing like 50 reps and 50 reps. I want to get in good enough shape where I can hang with you on your workouts. And that's not hyperbole. That's not hype. That is you hit the gym very, very hard.
Well, I think if you go down there with a serious mode and you have certain things you have to do, you get through them. And once you're done, that's it for the day. Aside from my daily walk with Max, it's important, and it's a very important part of my week to go there at least 3 times a week and then to do my walks. I'm sure that your physician's been telling you to lose weight for some time. Has he played a part in what you're doing with your exercise and diet, or is this something that you're administering on your own?
Even, with the high blood pressure I had, people say, hey, you can lose weight. They gave me the soft sell. And when I was pre-diabetic, I was told, look, you can go on this drug, and no judgment or anything like that. And I said, no, I've got to do this myself. No, I'm doing this on my own. Like you and like others, I do the research and I go to the gym. As I told my wife, and she goes, when are you ever going to do this program? I'm going home. And home for me is figuring this out, the diet change, the water. There's no, magical pill that a physician can give you. It is, it's knowing that, like right now I have this apple as opposed to chips. And I never thought I'd be at a point in my life where I'd go, I want an apple as opposed to a chip. But it's, it's like the investment business. If you put something in, you're going to get a return. If you put trash in, that's what you'll have. So, yeah, no physician supervision or anything like that.
So you're basically on your own on this one. This is all Kevin Miller, and the only one to thank from when this is all done is Kevin Miller.
Kevin got himself into this situation. As you know, we're working on an undisclosed documentary that you're going to be a part of. And I was talking to one of the filmmakers, young filmmaker Joe, and he said, you've changed my attitude with how I view obese people or fat people. I'm still morbidly obese. That's how they define me medically. And he goes, I used to look at those people and they lack self-control, and I see how hard you work. I go, look, there's no one to blame for this than me. And this hits home for a lot of us. There are a lot of people that don't have good health. I used to have a listener in Pittsburgh, used to email me all the time, ripping me about my health because she has friends that are sick. And I think all of us, and I don't mean to lecture, I'm like a recovering, whatever you want to call it, foodaholic. We owe that to the people that have these health conditions that they can't control to try and control our health. Kevin Miller got himself into this situation, and he needs to get himself out of it.
Well, again, research tells us that you can change an awful lot of things in your life just by changing your diet, and we've all gotten away from eating whole plant-based foods. For years, we're eating this processed garbage that they put in a package that tastes really good, has a lot of sugar in it, has a lot of grains in it. And we just eat it like we expect it to take care of us physiologically. And what it really does is just deteriorate our bodies. We wind up with all kinds of autoimmune diseases. We see the cancer rate going up. We see the Alzheimer's rate going up. Nobody seems to understand where these things are coming from, but nobody wants to take a look at the diet. And there are a few doctors out there who are actually looking to get this now, because not only does your diet control your weight, but it controls your interior, your biome, your immune system. If you're eating right, you're going to feel a heck of a lot better. Has this lifestyle change enabled you to get off any of your medications? Because I know you were on some medications prior to starting this program, and does it feel better?
Yeah, I've didn't have to do the diabetes drug, and we're evaluating, if we're going to reduce some of the blood pressure medication, and I'll let the physicians figure that out. But I was crazy. I mean, I went to Iraq weighing over 300 some pounds. I not only put myself in danger, but those people that were guarding me.
Yeah, but you did that walk also from Sun Valley. I mean, how does somebody do that? Pure grit?
Or being a pure moron. And, and this is where diet, if we can give you one message today, folks, this is where diet is so important. And I thought that I was invulnerable. And I never should have gone on that walk. When I got back from Iraq, you can tell when people look at you and you're not feeling well. I mean, I had to take a cold shower in the Dulles Airport's bathroom in a sink. My ankles were like softballs. After being back from Iraq for 3 days, we decided we were going to go with the walk. I should have bailed out on it then. We didn't have a first aid kit. And I was eating bacon. I was eating the soup of death, which is ramen noodles. 4 ramen noodles a day. So imagine what my sodium level was like. Gatorade, which is high in sodium. Beef stew, steak, all the things that you shouldn't be eating. And I want to say this with all sincerity and humility. It's by the grace of God that I made it through that walk and I didn't die, based on what physicians and doctors have told me. That 235, 135 blood pressure reading was 2 or 3 days after the walk. I was worried about a foot infection when, again, I was retaining so much sodium. I remember being in primary care, and I'll get back to that in a minute.
We have to take a quick break. We'll be back in a few minutes. You're listening to Health Conclusions, brought to you by Altrua Health Share, with your host Bob Neugebauer on 580 KIDO AM and 107.5 FM. Welcome back to Health Conclusions on 580 KIDO. We're speaking with Kevin Miller, sponsored by AltruaHealthShare.org. So, Kevin, you've made this great change. We've talked about your unbelievable walk and your time over in the Mideast, and now you're back here in the saddle.
Right.
Tell us, can you tell us why or what you're going to do when you get back to your old bodybuilding weight? Will you be out there with the other bodybuilders in the shows with your muscles being flexed, or what are you going to do?
It's funny. I plan to compete. As you know, you and I went to a bodybuilding show, and I have a long way to go, but that is my goal at the age of probably 50, maybe 51, to be back on the stage that I was at 18 or 19. And really, to be able to do that when the doctor tells you can't leave a facility like you did at primary care, where they say we've got to check your heart for heart damage because of this crazy walk. It will be a way of coming full circle, and it's not really about me. It's about showing people that you can do it. As you know, there are so many people that are dedicated to fitness and wellness that are in great shape, that have not struggled like you have and like I have currently. It's easy when you're young to talk about the fitness lifestyle, but until you've been there, and I think I've been there, you can't have the empathy to the level that I have and that you have for people that are struggling. And my goal at the end is to produce this documentary to let people know that you don't have to be 21 or 35 and kind of skinny fat to make a difference. You can be morbidly obese and live your dream.
Well, I was 69, 70 when I made my turn. I guess you can do it at almost any age if you want to. It's just a matter of whether you have the propensity to go out there and do it yourself. And you can spend the time and money on doctors and diets and all kinds of fads. But when it comes right down to it, it's nothing but good, hard work.
It is, and it's easier said than done when last week I was at the Oregon coast, and it's kind of, I call it the Kenny Rogers theory on diet and exercise. And in the past, I've always been one extreme or the other, where it's been you're eating egg whites, plant-based foods, and nothing but chicken breasts. And you're thinking to myself, my goodness, is there anything else? And then you start craving the bad foods, and you get off the cycle and you don't get back on, or you're dieting for 3 days and you're splurging for 5. Even last week on vacation, I tried my best. Instead of a gallon, I took half a gallon, and I worked out 2 of the 4 days I was gone. You have to keep it in perspective. You want to make sure that you have a life outside of the gym, and that's important if you're, so again, not to get too sloppy, but to live a little. And even when I'm eating a food that I would normally eat, it doesn't have that magic anymore. It doesn't resonate like, oh, what I'm missing. Well, no, I'm missing cholesterol. I'm missing fatty acids. I'm missing sodium. It is entirely 100% mental when you want to make that change. Do you want to live a life of the pain and being relegated by medicine on how you're going to live your life, or do you want to go to the gym? And like I said, for people that haven't been to the gym, it can be intimidating. Trainers, even though they mean well, can be intimidating. And you have to understand no one is going to love you more than you. And, for every cheeseburger, you've got to sweat it off.
Well, I'll tell you, I've been there and I've done that. And I have to tell you, it is a lot of hard work. But the benefits that you get out of it are so immense. I mean, to feel like I was 50 again at 72 is, you don't know what that's like, and most people aren't going to ever get an opportunity to try it because they won't put the hard work in. How long do you expect that it's going to take you to attain your goal in losing this weight? Do you have any expectations?
Well, I'm 310 right now. When I competed in bodybuilding, I was 154 pounds.
Wow.
I don't think I've gained a lot of muscle since then, so my goal is to compete either a year from November or that show we saw in June, maybe. It all depends on, you have incremental goals. This month I want to weigh this much. And to go from being morbidly obese to being just obese to being athletic takes a while. But, there's no rush. And I think that's the issue we have. It's the biggest loser mentality where I got to lose this weight all the way. Oh, my God, I didn't do this. Something? It's frustrating when you put in the work and you haven't lost a pound. But as you know, if you're gaining muscle and losing fat, sometimes you don't. That's the most difficult thing to do, is to gain muscle or keep muscle and lose fat. Very easy just to lose fat if you're doing nothing but cardio. But to do both is tough. I've done both. I've done the CrossFit. I've done the circuit training and everything else. Doing it this way is very slow and steady. So it might be 2 years from now. My brother goes, what's that going to be, 3 years? I'm going, hey, man, it's going to be like a year. But, whatever the workload permits me to. And I don't want to go up there just to say, hey, I did this. I want to be the best I can be. So that might take some time.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm going to be there with you 100%. I've seen the changes you've made just over the last 3 months, and I have to tell you, I look at you now, and you have that smile on your face, and there's that that glimmer of hope, and you look more radiant, if that's what you call it. You look like you're alive, you're well, and you're looking forward to the next day. A lot of the people I meet who have come from your situation and don't want to change, I don't think a lot of them ever want to even get up the next day. They would prefer to just lay in that bed and say, the heck with it, this is a lot easier. But you've taken the hard road. You've taken the road less traveled, and I think that's important. People have to understand that. Where does your motivation come from? Does it come from your wife, or is it just internal, or where does it come from?
Well, for years, I've lived a very selfish life, and I could talk about being a role model on the air, but you go back to one of the seven deadly sins, gluttony, and I am the king of gluttony. I can remember, eating food all the time, and really, and I say this in a non-judgmental way. Do you want to be the person that can waddle from their car to the supermarket and get on the rascal? Or do you want to be the person that walks around the supermarket and pushes the heavy cart? And I made a decision that I wanted to be the guy walking around. And I joke about that on the air. Oh, I'm going to get my rascal and stuff. And then you see people that love and care for you. And I'm talking about the listening audience when you're at schools or something like that, and they can't help but feel sorry for you. They would never say that. Now, in our time, people would be more judgmental. In our time, people would go after us. But you can see that. And then when you see the kids, hey, it's Kevin Miller. Oh, it's that guy. You have to take a look at yourself and put yourself into a semblance of accountability and say, am I setting myself up as a good role model for kids and adults? And I haven't. How many times have we been out in the cold back in the day, eating these foods and stuff as a reward? Is that really self-discipline? No, it's self-indulgence.
Well, it is a role model responsibility. You get out to an awful lot of people here in the Treasure Valley, and I think it's important for somebody like yourself to be a role model in some ways. And, even for myself, with all of the organizations that I'm involved with, if people can see that somebody like I can change at my age, or you can change at your age, it makes them that much more curious to whether they can do it. But you have to give people something to shoot for. And many of them don't have something to shoot for. I think that what you're doing is something that everybody should look at some point in their lives. It's like when I go to church on Sundays and I'm praying for that whole congregation, because I have to tell you, most of them are overweight, and they do need to change. And when I hear that we have 5 people in that congregation with cancer, it scares the daylights out of me, and it happens every week. So you have to understand that the change you're making is going to give you a much healthier outlook on life, and it's going to let you live longer to do the things that you want to do.
Well, and, with the Oregon coast, you'd think that there'd be a lot of fit people, but I saw a lot of folks that have chosen a different lifestyle, which, again, we can only pray for, and it has to come from them, as you know.
We have to take a quick break, but we'll be back in a few minutes. You're listening to Health Conclusions, brought to you by Altrua Health Share, with your host, Bob Neugebauer, on 580 KIDO AM and 107.5 FM. Welcome back to Health Conclusions on 580 KIDO. We're speaking with Kevin Miller, sponsored by Altrua Health Share. So, Kevin, back to this weight-losing deal that you're on. Once you attain your goal, how do you think it will affect your personality or in your business life, besides the fact that you will have to spend a lot of time at the tailor and then warehouse buying new clothes?
Well, unfortunately, I don't know if I'll have to do that, because for many years I would get clothes that I couldn't fit into. And I have a ton of clothes that are several sizes smaller than I would. Just to give you a juxtaposition for this, I knew I didn't have to, but and I'm only 5'8" on a good day, when 4XLs were too small for me, or after one wash.
Wow.
And, people kind of look at me kind of funny when I come into work, because I'm wearing something that could be pajamas or something of that nature. And you see this with people that have, like me, weight issues. They wear the stretchy pants, and I've worn like stretchy shorts for about 3 or 4 years. So I won't have to buy any new clothes because I'm too cheap to throw things out. I will wear stuff that's probably, Z Cavaricci from the 80s or something of that nature. But, that's another side that people don't understand, the clothing issues. Look, I buy my stuff at Walmart, but the 4XL shirts are still $1 or $2 more expensive than the regular size shirts. So there's an additional expense. Something was wrong. It was a combination of the pain, being out of breath when I would walk up steps, when I'd walk to see you, and the 4XL. Come on, something has to give here. Now DXL loved me when I'd waddle in, but I mean those shirts are outrageous. If Walmart doesn't make a size for you, then I had issues.
Yeah,
Kind of hit you there with that 4XL. Look at you. You're blushing.
You remind me of myself. When I started to lose weight, I was in a 42 pant. And, boy, I'll tell you, that was big. And all of a sudden, all of my friends who were as heavy as I was at that point are very happy to know me because I'm giving them all of my clothes.
Right.
And because I don't ever want to have to get back into them again. So anything that is too big is out the door and somebody is getting it. But I can understand exactly where you're coming from. The good part is that I used to save all my old things too. I mean, I've got 35 suits in my closet that actually fit me now.
Right.
That's from 12 years ago.
I'm sure they're still in style.
They are. They are all very traditional.
Right.
So I kind of keep things that way. But it's interesting. As you change, you do have to make certain adjustments. And going from a 42 to a 34, can you imagine what you're going to look like?
I'd like to be down to a 42, but yes, I would agree with you. And like I said, I really want to make a change permanently. And I really haven't gone public with this, and there are a couple reasons why. 6 or 7 years ago, we did a deal with the Idaho Athletic Club. It doesn't exist anymore. And we won their weight loss challenge. I lost 42 pounds in a month. Or I'm sorry, in 2 months. It was no drugs.
Wow.
It was 6 days a week. And I could recover a lot quicker than I can now. It was probably a good 6 or 7 years ago. I was on TV with them. But then after the competition, kind of lost focus. And the cheat day turned into the cheat weekend. And age is such a humbling thing. Your metabolism slows down. You can't if you really want to hold yourself accountable, you can't get away with a cheat weekend. Maybe a cheat meal. But you realize, gosh, this is great. Wait a minute, I'm going to spend the day Monday detoxifying from this, craving this crap that I self-ingested into myself on Saturday and Sunday to feel good, and I feel like garbage. One thing, again, is that's why I started very slowly. One good meal a day as opposed to cold turkey. And then you start craving it, and then your taste buds change. Literally, your taste buds change. Going from diet soda to seltzer water to just plain water. I can't emphasize that enough to people. Gradually, you have all the time in the world as opposed to rush. I see trainers in the gym training people that are my size or bigger or a little smaller, and I understand what they're doing. Hey, you're getting in there, but why do you want to go back to that? At least if it were me. I want to go and do something I can handle, and as Seinfeld said, the Seinfeld theory of fitness, always leave them or yourself wanting more.
Well, when you talk about you have all the time in the world, when I got to be 70 years old, I knew I didn't have maybe that much time left.
Sure.
So you have to do things and you have to get yourself back in shape. But who knows now? Maybe I'll live into my 90s.
And what wonderful adventures we'll have.
I'll run out of money, but what the heck? Who cares?
You can live with me.
There
We've
you
got
go.
Lots of room.
You and I. I'm just kind of curious, but when you started this whole thing, what was the inspiration? What turns you? What made that key turn in that door to unlock the real Kevin Miller?
I wanted to control my life and not have my life control me. And we work, as you know, as Ray Amaya knows, And I think any business these days, it's like broadcasting. It's very volatile. You don't have a lot of control over it, in my opinion. I wanted to go back to something that I could control. And people think I'm crazy when I go to the gym and I'm sweating and such, but I don't care. I wanted to have control of my life as opposed to I've got to get this prescription. I need this to get around. I wanted to go back to being on stage. And again, there are a lot of people, and you see this all the time when you have your numerous pose downs at the gym with people, when you're pumping the pythons. There are a lot of people that are in great shape. Less than maybe 5% or maybe less than 3 or 1% have enough guts to get on stage. We're talking with like your underwear, posing trunks, and reveal everything. I have to go back to that. I have to do that for myself.
You're not going to do it in the tighty whities, are you?
No, I will. It'll be the royal blue posing trunks. And look, whether I finish last or I finish last, it's not about that. It's about the journey. And how many? I mean, you know that, but it's so easy to say. Sometimes it's not so easy to follow. It is the journey, and it should be that way at any age. Instead of instant gratification, going in, putting in your time, and getting that feeling of reward from doing a good job.
Well, everybody expects a pill to take care of us. Either it's a diet pill or a blood pressure pill or, a pill to get rid of whatever problem you have. And,
appetite suppressant.
Yeah, and that's not really the key. God didn't make us to be eating all of these synthetic pills.
Right.
And certainly Big Pharma wasn't around back in the 15 and 1600s or even back in AD. If you wanted to be physically fit, you actually went out and you worked for it. And I think that's what most people don't get anymore. They have to learn that lifestyle change doesn't come easy, and it is a journey. And a journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. And when you take the road less traveled, there's a lot of bumps along the way. So I'm only hoping that you will get to that point where you're satisfied with what you've done and how you feel, and that you can be somebody who's an image for other people to do the same thing, because that's what we need nowadays. We don't have enough people doing that.
Well, easier said than done, and we will we'll find out in a few months. We'll find out as our journey continues together, and I'm just looking forward to trying to hang with you with your 50 rep sets at the gym.
Well, we'd like to thank Kevin for joining us this evening and for offering his insights into lifestyle change. This is Bob Nucabara wishing you all a happy and healthy week ahead from our staff at Healthy Conclusions, and we hope that you will join us again at the same time next Sunday for another hour of informative talk about nutrition, exercise, and alternative medicine options, sponsored by AltruaHealthShare.org on 580 KIDO AM and 107.5 FM.